Breaking news here on America Reports. Iranian state media says their foreign minister indeed will be in Pakistan, but not for talks with the United States. As the White House tells us, those talks are in fact on, with America's top two envoys set to leave soon. Listen here.
I can confirm Special Envoy Witkoff and Jared Kushner will be off to Pakistan again tomorrow morning to engage in talks, direct talks intermediated by the Pakistanis, who have been incredible friends and mediators throughout this entire process, with representatives from the Iranian delegation. Look, the Iranians reached out, as the president called on them to do, and asked for this in-person conversation. So the president is dispatching Steve and Jared to go hear what they have to say.
All right, well, welcome to a new hour of America Reports. I'm John Roberts, and good Friday afternoon.
Thank you for having me back.
So who do you believe?
Wow, we definitely can't believe the Iranians, right? We hear that all the time.
No.
Well, I'm Aisha Hasni in for Sanders Smith. We've got a lot to get to. Diplomacy picks up as U.S. forces are now also flexing their military might in the Mideast. CENTCOM says 3 U.S. aircraft carriers are now out there with more than 200 aircraft and 15,000 sailors and Marines on board at the ready.
And right now, President Trump is meeting with his top advisors in the Oval Office as we wait to hear from the president on what comes next.
Our correspondent Lucas Tomlinson is at the White House North Lawn with the very latest from the administration. Hi, Lucas.
Good afternoon, Aisha. And that report you just mentioned, introduction from Tassim News, that's controlled by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. So it looks like there's still some fissures in that relationship that we've been reporting on for weeks. Not everyone being on the same page, perhaps some blowback from the IRGC about the foreign minister's travels to Islamabad, ostensibly to meet with Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff after President Trump and his spokeswoman, Karoline Leavitt, said that this trip was at the invitation of the Iranians. They wanted to talk. President Trump says he wants to hear him out. That's why he's dispatching his special envoys. And Karoline Leavitt also talks about the president's new red lines when dealing with those Iranian gunboats that have closed the Strait of Hormuz.
President Trump, as commander-in-chief, has given the green light and authorization to the Department of War to take lethal and kinetic action if they deem necessary. If these boats are threatening U.S. assets in the region, they will absolutely be dealt with accordingly.
Now, U.S. forces seized 2 Iranian tankers in recent days in the Indian Ocean. Iran then seized 2 commercial ships in the U.S. In the Strait of Hormuz, an apparent tit for tat. Those 2 commercial ships not from the U.S., however. With the addition of the USS George H.W. Bush, there are now 3 aircraft carrier strike groups in the Middle East, as you mentioned. It's the first time since the Iraq War in 2003 the U.S. Navy has dispatched 3 carriers to the region. Back then, it was 5. The Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, says Bush will be joining Abraham Lincoln to enforce the blockade in the Arabian Sea.
Not only is the blockade growing, in fact, a second aircraft carrier will join the blockade in just a few days, but this growing blockade is also gone global.
Standing next to the Secretary of War is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dan Kane. He says U.S. forces in the region are prepared to relaunch combat operations against Iran if these talks go south. Aisha.
Okay, Lucas Tomlinson live for us at the White House to start things off. Lucas, thank you.
Let's bring in Dan Senor, former foreign policy advisor in the George W. Bush administration and former Pentagon advisor to CENTCOM. Dan, it's great to see you.
So, good to be with you, John.
Unravel this for us. So the foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, is headed to Islamabad. He's supposed to arrive there tonight. Iranian state media, though, is saying, he's not there for talks with the United States. Meantime, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, according to the White House, are on their way tomorrow morning to meet with Araghchi to find out what Iran's thinking. So take that all apart for us.
Well, what we know is because of the war, the Iranian regime is fractured. So it's not entirely clear who's in charge. There's the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. There is these political officials like the foreign minister, like the speaker of their parliament. There's, of course, the supreme leader who nobody has seen. There are reports that he is wounded, if not worse. The Iranians have done a very good job of keeping his whereabouts quiet. So there's these different elements with no singular force involved. If you think about how the Iranian regime has made other major decisions in its history, take the 2015 Iran deal, the JCPOA. Ultimately, Khamenei, the supreme leader at that point, made the decision, we're going to do this deal, and he drove it through, and it wouldn't have happened without all these with all these organs having differing views, without the supreme leader saying we're doing this. So you look at the end of the Iran-Iraq War, 1988, Ayatollah Khomeini, he made the decision, we're going to end the war, and he drove that decision through the process.
Yep.
It seems like the supreme leader that is in power now, if he is alive and functioning, it's not clear he's in a capacity to make decisions. And so it seems like other actors are overriding each other, or competing with one another. And even if there are parties in Islamabad that want to kind of move things forward, they have to come back to Tehran or get messages back to Tehran. And because of the war, because of telephonic communications, electronic communications have been so damaged and so compromised, understandably, because of the war, no one is comfortable getting on the phone or communicating electronically to get an answer. So everything is communicated through messages and couriers. It reminds me a little bit of during the Israel-Hamas war, where every time there was process on negotiations to get hostages out or get some kind of temporary ceasefire, Yahya Sinwar was in some tunnel in Gaza, and there was no way to communicate with him. So Hamas was in Doha or Cairo trying to communicate, and every time they wanted a decision, they had to send all these messages back through intermediaries and couriers. We're dealing with something similar now.
Well, eventually Israel sent the ultimate message to Yahya Sinwar. Gallup is not going to be there, which is interesting. He took himself out of the process. Maybe there's a split with Vahidi or something. We don't quite know. So many machinations going on. I wanted to ask you about this. Hakeem Jeffries tried to make the point that he says that Iran is stronger now than before the conflict began. Listen to what he said.
The regime is still intact. We have not decimated their nuclear stockpile to the extent that it exists. And the Strait of Hormuz is now controlled by Iran, which was not the case prior to Donald Trump starting this conflict. That means, arguably, at least as it relates to leverage that Iran now has that it previously did not possess, Iran's in a stronger position now than it was before Donald Trump started his reckless war of choice.
Jeffrey's assessment would not seem to be well-grounded in fact.
Iran, if you look at the range of capabilities Iran has had over the last number of years, including after the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal in 2015, Iran was able to invest billions of dollars, not only in its nuclear program and its conventional offensive capabilities, like its ballistic missile program and its drone program and its defensive capabilities, its air defense systems, and its nuclear program and its proxy system, right? The Houthis, the Hezbollah, Hamas, throughout the region. Every one of those capabilities is seriously degraded, if not all but eliminated. The proxy system, parts of it are gone. Other parts of it are at least severely weakened. They don't pack nearly the punch that they used to. Iran's offensive capabilities they're not completely gone, but it's a lot harder to wreak havoc in a region when you don't have an air force, you don't have much of a navy, and your capabilities, your ballistic missiles, your industrial base that produces your ballistic missiles and your drones and everything else are all but wiped out. And your decision-making process, as we're seeing right now, is completely discombobulated, right? There's no chain of command. There's no clear structure to decision-making. So is it to say that every war there aren't twists and turns and aspects that one doesn't anticipate? Of course, that is the case in every war, including in this war. But to suggest that Iran is the same threat to the United States and the West and our regional allies in the Middle East and to the world that it was before February 28th is completely disconnected from reality. Just simply look at their capabilities. Iran does not have the capabilities today that it had 7 or 8 weeks ago.
And last time I checked, it was the United States that's controlling the Strait of Hormuz and not Iran and their little fast boats. Dan, always great to catch up with you. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.